As a cardiologist, lots of my young patients, those who are going to the gym, they come and ask me whether nut butter is good for their health or not. In today's video, we'll discuss about nut butter, how it compares over the nut as such, and how to choose nut butter and whether they are really helpful or not. All of us know that nuts are good for health, especially it is heart healthy, brain healthy, helps in weight loss if it is taken in moderate amount because they contain lots of healthy fat, fiber, good amount of protein, they contain omega 3 as well as vitamin E. On the contrary, nut butters are also quite prevalent in today's society because they are convenient to use, and nut butters could be used from various sources of nuts like peanuts or cashews or almonds, and they're easy to use and could be used in variety of ways. But there are some hidden concerns with the use of nut butter. First of all, added ingredients, because commercially available nut butters, they have sometimes added things like sugar or salt, or they have preservatives. Sometimes they have oils, and this oil could be an hydrogenated oil, which are not good for health. In fact, it could be harmful for your heart, and they are more calorie dense compared to the whole nut as such, and that's why you tend to consume them more, and then we tend to put on weight. So because of all those things, we need to be mindful of taking and consuming nut butters. So what does the research say about nuts and nut butter? The research is unequivocal about the role of nuts in health. Nuts have been shown time and again they are beneficial for heart health. In fact, regular consumption of nut confers 30% of protection against heart attack and heart blockages. It is also beneficial for our brain health, beneficial for weight loss, improves the sugar level as well as prevents cancer. But the same level of evidence is not there with the nut butter. The results are conflicting. Why? Because they have lots of preservatives in that. So they are not as healthy as a whole nut would be. If you like our content, kindly subscribe to our channel and hit on the bell icon so that you get all the notifications of our upcoming videos. So whole nut versus nut butter, how do they differ? Whole nut, when you consume, it is consumed as such. So nuts have fiber, they have their cell wall, and inside their cell wall they have the fats. So whenever you consume that, we consume as a whole the nut, it goes inside our body, inside the stomach and intestine, and our body has to work really hard to absorb that. It has to break down the cell wall of the nuts into small pieces and get it absorbed. So our body has to work harder, and thereby the calorie content of a nut, what we consume, might not be all the calories of a nut gets absorbed in our body. Suppose you are consuming walnuts or almond and you are consuming 100 kilocalories of a walnut. So this 100 kilocalories, when it goes inside, not all of this 100 calories gets absorbed because our body has to work really hard, and the nut contains fiber also. So thereby not all the calories gets absorbed. Maybe out of 100 calories, only 70 calories gets absorbed in our body, and rest 30 are consumed by our gut bacteria. But the same logic doesn't apply with the nut butter, because nut butter, the nuts are grinded into powdery form, and since it is grinded into powdery form, all the cell walls are damaged, so all these fats and fiber, they come out. So when we consume, our body doesn't require much of an effort to absorb this because it has been reduced to a powdery form. So most of the calories, all the calories in fact gets absorbed in our body. Unlike the nut, a nut 70% gets absorbed and 30% doesn't get absorbed of all the calories. But in case of nut butter, almost all the calories gets absorbed. And nut butters also have the preservatives, they have additives like sugar or salt or bad oil, which further increases the calorie content. So thereby we tend to consume more calories when you are consuming a nut butter compared to a whole nut, and thereby when you compare nut versus nut butter, these are the few things we should keep in mind. You should always read the labels when you are taking a nut butter, because some of the commercially available nut butters, they have sugar as an additive, they have a salt as an additive, they have a bad hydrogenated oil as an additive. So you should always read for the label, because if you do not read the label, you might be consuming more calories, and you could have a weight gain because of that. And you need to have a balanced meal, and you need to control your portion size also, be it nut butter. If you are not controlling a portion size, you tend to put on weight, you tend to have more problem if you're not mindful of the portion size. And you should need to always diversify the amount. When you are taking nuts, you should not restrict to a single nut. You should take different type of nuts. Like you can incorporate walnuts, you can take almonds, you can take macadamia nuts, you can take pecan nuts, you can take Brazil nuts. You should take combination of all those and should not exceed more than 30 grams. And it should not be salted, it should not be sugar coated, it should not be chocolate coated. So regarding the uses of nut butter, nuts had been in use in Indian context for a long time, but nowadays because of urbanization, because of convenience, people have started using the nut butter also because they're convenient to use. But while using the nut butter, you should be mindful of the fact, although it is convenient compared to taking a nut, but you have to be mindful that they contain more calories compared to whole nut. And sometimes they have an additional source of calories like sugar, salt, and sometimes bad hydrogenated oil. So you should be mindful of all those things. So if you at all want to consume nut butter, then you can consume nut butter which is homemade rather than a commercially available, because commercially available you may not be sure regarding their ingredients, what preservative they are using, what additives they are using. So you can make your own nut butter at home and you can use that nut butter in a spread, you can use it as a smoothie, you can use in different forms. So what you can do is that takes nuts, you can roast this nuts 10 to 15 minutes, dry roasting in 150°C heat, and after that you can put it in a blender, blend it and make it in a powdery creamy form. The more you grind it, it will become creamy. And sometime if it becomes too thick, you can add some cold pressed oils, but otherwise most of the time oil is not required. And as an additive, you can use some healthy form of sugar, like you can use cinnamon, or you can use date, or you can use cardamom, and you can put it in a jar and store it. So that's how you can make a healthy as well as tasty nut butter at home if you want to take a nut butter. So try to avoid commercially available nut butters and you can make the healthy and tasty nut butter at home by this method. So regarding the choosing between nuts and nut butter, you should choose wisely. Whole nuts are obviously a better option. Choose from a variety and option. Restrict the portion size. Do not use nuts which are oil fried or salted or coated in sugar or chocolate, and use a variety of form. Regarding the nut butter, you should read the label, and better if you make it at home, and you should have a balance between your convenience as well as health. So if you like our video, kindly see this video.